Quest to Succeed, Chapter 32. Subsequently, Jay became interested in psychology, which was the analysis of human behavior. He identified that since the Second World War, the study of personality and knowledge of the self had become important themes in the academic world. The self was the product of social interaction. A person perceived himself, herself as the others saw him or her. Personality had been considered in many ways, traits and types, by classifying it into introverts and extroverts, neurotics and stable, division of attitudes into conservatives and radicals, tender-minded and tough-minded had been advocated. The classification of character into choleric, melancholic, phlegmatic and sanguine appealed to him most. He had also been looking into the attitudes, their formation and adoption. Anxiety, drive and motivation lead to academic achievement and personality development. Those who had high self-esteem of themselves tend to be adjustable. People with inferiority complex, low self-esteem and self-rejection tend to be maladjusted. He attempted to analyze his own self-conception and thought that he was perhaps an introvert but creative. He was in touch with his cousin Nitin in India. Nitin wanted to study for the bar final in London and become a barrister. He already had a law degree and a master's degree from an Indian university. On arrival in London, he stayed with Jay for a few weeks. He was accepted to study for the bar at the Middle Temple and completed his finals within a year. After his examination, he was offered a job at a law firm, which he accepted in order to gain experience. He decided to stay in London and rented a flat in Hariandom, North London. He was always busy and became friendly with Susan McIntosh, who worked at the same firm as a secretary. After 2 years of friendship, they both started to live together. Susan McIntosh felt that they know each other well. It would be a good idea to develop their relationship. She suggested to Nitin that they should get married. Nitin became nervous with the notion of marriage. He did not want to get married anyway. To marry a white woman would be very demanding. He therefore did not proceed any further. Susan McIntosh felt hurt. She stopped eating food, a kind of Gandhian fasting. With the result, she fell ill. Nitin also resorted to fasting. He did not eat anything for 2 weeks, a reciprocity. Nitin used to talk to Jay at every weekend. He, however, did not come over or phone him for 2 weeks. Jay became concerned about him. He went to see him at his flat in Hariandom and found him sick with high temperature. Jay took him to local hospital. He asked Nitin the reason for his sickness and why did he stop eating food. He did not fully explain and attempted to make excuses. Jay, however, found out the reason for Nitin's illness, both physical as well as psychological. He advised him to solve the problem with Susan McIntosh by discussing sensibly, and if he could do anything, he should have conversation with him. He returned home and explained the matter to his wife, Reena, who understood the situation and said that they both were educated and sensible persons. They should attempt to seek a solution to their plight. Jay therefore did not do anything and felt that Nitin and Susan should solve their problems in accordance with their circumstances and thinking. Jay had been in England for more than a decade. His younger brother Vikram asked him to write about London. Vikram could not come to visit him in England. Jay himself wanted to write something about London and let his relatives know about this beautiful city. In a long letter he wrote, London was stretched many miles from north to south and east to west. It was divided by the River Thames. The various gates show that the Londoners lived within the city walls, which was now known as the City of London. The old tower and the markets surrounding it were the witness of this truth. The example he gave was that of Aldgate and Aldgate East, which were very close to the old tower and the Tower Bridge. Delhi also had its own gates, the India Gate, the Lahori Gate, the Ajmeri Gate, and the Kashmiri Gate. These places were now residential areas, but they had kept their names. Jay explained all that because he wanted his younger brother to comprehend that a gate did not necessarily mean an entry place with pillars. Of course, he stated that there were many other parts in London which had their own identities and names. All localities in London had open space and parks for the benefit of residents. Some parks had become famous and were recognizable across the world. The Hyde Park, the Kensington Gardens, the Regent's Park, St. James Park, Richmond Park, and the Kew Gardens were prominent and popular. The, the Greenwich Park, Osterley Park, and Gunnersbury Park were quite big, where local people walked around every day. Jay himself had had picnic and walked around these parks many times over. He also mentioned some popular museums, especially the British Museum, the Albert and Victoria Museum, the Natural History Museum, Science and Geological Museums. People line up to visit these places every day. These were the tourist attractions for people from various parts of the United Kingdom and from abroad. London also had famous bridges. The Tower Bridge, the London Bridge, Westminster Bridge, and the Kew Bridge were just a few. Not many Indian or other Asian families lived in Jay's locality. Some, however, ran small businesses there. There was an electronics repair shop at a walking distance from his house. He became friendly with the owner, Guru Nam. He had his video recorder repaired at his shop. During a conversation one day, Guru Nam asked him about his job. Jay told him that he taught at a university but did not reveal any further details. Guru Nam asked him whether he could help his daughter with her coursework. Jay asked him to bring the work she has done. He would have a look at it. Alternatively, she could email her work to me. The next day, Guru Nam brought the coursework and delivered at Jay's house. He read the work and made necessary suggestions. Guru Nam's daughter needed further clarification in other subjects. Overall, Jay spent 4 to 5 hours in correcting the work and in oral discussion. Guru Nam's daughter suggested to her dad that he should not charge for the repair of Jay's video recorder. Alternatively, he should pay for her tuition. Jay suggested to the young lady, "Your dad's earning depended on his repair work. I, however, get a salary from my university, which looks after my expenses and bills. There was no need to pay me any money or give me a discount on the work that Guru Nam has done for me. I could not charge for a few hours of help with her coursework." The father and daughter were happy. That was an enough award for discussing her projects. Jay pointed out a few ideas and amendments that, "Perhaps you wanted to write this sentence or express your views like that." The girl said to her dad, "How did he know what was I thinking or planning to write?" Jay told her and Guru Nam that it was a natural way of writing and expressing views by students. He was not a psychologist or an astrologer to enter a person's mind. A teacher's experience could suggest what a student wanted to write but sometimes could not express herself. Like any other student, she was clever enough to reach the required standard but needed a little guidance. Jay considered it as a social work. He noticed that Indians were ambitious. They respected their culture and social values. They had also become a part of the British society. The younger generation had adopted some aspects of the Western way of living. The Asians have made a valuable contribution to the British economy, especially in small businesses and in running the corner shops. A House of Commons report revealed that the Indians formed only 2.9% of the British population, yet they contributed 10% to the United Kingdom revenues through taxation. Many Indians were encouraged by the British government to emigrate to East Africa to help in the running of the colonies. After their independence, changes started to take place in these countries. The African leaders became anti-British and anti-Indian, who had helped the British in colonial administration. They were asked to leave their countries. Many of them returned to India. Some went to live in the United States. Some, however, moved to live in Britain because they had British passports. The British government had created a pool of workers overseas who could be allowed to come to Britain when needed. On moving to reside in Britain, many East African Asians, as they were called, became shopkeepers and businessmen. In retail shops, all members of the family gave their time by standing at the till and the checkout. They hardly employed outsiders because they could not afford to pay wages, and the employees would not be careful, as the owners themselves, in dealing with customers who needed personal attention. There were, however, examples when a shopkeeper or an employee was on his own at the shop and damages were inflicted to their properties and windows were broken. One shopkeeper in Jay's locality received so much damage to his shop that he had to close it down. He was not an educated person. He did not speak fluent English either. He had to seek employment at the Heathrow Airport, where quite a few Asians worked as cleaners, porters, baggage handlers, shop assistants, and bank clerks. The wages were low. They were paid only the national minimum wage. Nevertheless, there were 2 other retail shops near Jay's house. He sometimes bought goods of them. They both were friendly and polite to their customers. Sometimes they delivered shopping at elderly people's houses. Their working hours were long and tiring. They both ran family businesses. One of them, named Rajat, got tired and looked older than his age. He never went on holiday for 20 years or more. He decided to retire at the age of 55. That was the consequence of his working 15 hours a day. There was no social life for him and his family. Nonetheless, he managed to send both his children to study at universities. One of them became an accountant, and the other studied information technology. The other shopkeeper in the area was Shahid. He and his family also worked 15 hours a day. Shahid had no time for his family. He had only one daughter. When she was young, she wanted to become a doctor. As she grew older, she realized that her dad had no time for her and the family. They never went to seaside or any other visiting places or on holiday. With the result, she lost interest in her studies. Shahid's wife was very depressed. One day she told Jay, if her husband did not change his working times, she would not live with him and divorce him. She emphasized that he does not spend valuable time with her and the daughter. He was always involved in his work and business, expanding it, diversifying it. They did not have a social life. She stressed that work ethic was good, but there should be a balance between social life, family life, and business. No progress could be made if family members were not happy and they did not support each other. Family dinner and family outing was an essential part of social life. If parents and children were close to each other, there would be less deviation and more openness and understanding. It would lead to progression and proficiency in all dimensions. Any kind of narrow attitude would breed dissent, misapprehension, and ill judgment. It would be grossly unfair to limit the scope of success. The customs and traditions should remain alive and therefore subject to change.